Welcome to this video on completing the financial factors and repair-replace decision screens for CNA eTool for servicing lenders. This is part of a series of videos that provide practical guidance to servicing lenders of HUD-insured multifamily rental properties on using CNA eTool for 10-year updates and other actions. Other videos in this series cover accessing CNA eTool, how to initiate a CNA, and user roles. The CNA preparer enters components and alternatives, provides estimated costs for each component, and recommends when components will be addressed, either now or at the end of their useful life. CNA eTool keeps a running total of the items to be addressed each year over the period of the CNA, both in uninflated and inflated dollars. This running total shows the dollar amount that needs to be available in the project's Reserve for Replacement, or RFR, account during each year to address scheduled capital needs and repairs. After reviewing the screens completed by the preparer, you will complete the Financial Factors screen, which is where you specify the parameters used to structure a plan for funding recommended future repairs and replacements. This is important for several reasons. Underestimating the amount by which costs will increase over time will leave the property with insufficient funds in its RFR account to make capital replacements over time. Overestimating inflation can negatively impact the financial viability of the project. Completing the financial factor screen is an iterative process. You'll need to try different combinations of entries until you arrive at a workable plan for addressing the property's physical needs over the next 10 years. While completing the screen, you will want to periodically check the financial schedule and estimate period recap located under the Validation tab on the left menu bar, as it shows the beginning balance of the RFR account minus the capital needs that need to be addressed, with the year-end balance for each year of the estimate period. The ending balance must exceed the required minimum balance throughout the entire 10-year period. On the Financial Factors screen, the first thing you'll do is enter an initial deposit to the Reserve for Replacement account, also known as the IDRR. You will also enter the annual deposit to the Reserve for Replacement account, or ADRR. The initial deposit plus the annual deposits must be sufficient to fund the project's anticipated capital replacement needs in each year of the replacement schedule. You will likely try different combinations of IDRR and ADRR. A larger initial deposit will allow for smaller annual deposits. Smaller annual deposits will require a larger initial deposit. The property's current balance in the RFR account can be used to fund at least part of the IDRR, while the ADRR will come from property operations. The amount of the ADRR is dependent on the project's ability to generate sufficient cash flow. The next item to be completed on the Financial Factors screen is the section where you're asked to estimate the percentage change in the following: the ADRR over time, inflation rate, and the interest earned on the funds in the reserve account. The ADRR may increase or decrease over time, as well as the inflation rate on capital repairs. The RFR funds must be placed in an interest-bearing account, and the interest earned may change over time as well. Under the Initial Rate column, you are asked to provide the initial rates at the time the CNA is being prepared. If you anticipate that these percentages will change in the future, then you will enter the next rate. Then, under RY, or Relevant Year of Change, you will enter the year in which you think the change will occur. Let's say that based on current sources, you decide to enter an initial inflation of capital needs percentage of 6.81% per year. If the inflation rate is anticipated to increase or decrease in the future, under Next Rate, you would enter the anticipated inflation rate. For purposes of this example, you might enter 2.27, meaning the inflation rate is expected to drop substantially. Under RY of Change, you will enter which year in the 10-year estimate period you think the inflation rate will change. These figures will all affect the figures shown on the financial schedule and estimate period recap. You can add any comments about the IDRR, ADRR, changes in annual deposit, inflation rate, and interest earned on the RFR account in the box provided. In the next section of the Financial Factors screen, enter the loan amount of the property's first mortgage, along with the loan interest rate percentage, the amortization period, and the amortization start date. The cumulative principal paid RFR deficit allowance is set at 50%. The significance of these numbers is shown on the financial schedule and estimate period recap in the Reserve for Replacement ending balance analysis section of the screen. Although the CNA is being prepared as a 10-year update, The financial schedule shows the amount and balance over a 20-year period. The reserve for replacement ending balance analysis shows the ending balance in the reserve account for 20 years as well. The reserve for replacement ending balance analysis contains rows for each year from 1 to 20. For each year, it shows the ending balance in the reserve account at year end, the required minimum balance, the cumulative principal paid, allowable deficit based on cumulative principal paid, and a compliance indicator. When looking at the financial schedule and estimate period recap, if it appears that the IDRR and ADRR are not sufficient to keep a required minimum reserve balance in the RFR account in years 1 through 10, you will need to change the IDRR and/or the ADRR. If the property is not in a position to increase either of these amounts, additional financing may be required. The mortgage information supplied on the financial factors screen populates the cumulative principal paid fields of the reserve for replacement ending balance analysis. This table shows that the RFR account balance may go below the required minimum deposit amount in years 11 through 20 of the CNA estimate period, provided the deficit does not exceed 50% of the property's cumulative equity. During years 11 through 20, if the ending balance in the RFR account goes below the required minimum balance amount, but the balance is greater than the allowable deficit based on the cumulative principal paid, then CNA eTool considers the ending balance for that year to be acceptable. The rationale for this is that if the principal balance has been paid down far enough, the property owner could refinance and use the additional cash to bring the reserve account balance to an acceptable level. As stated in Housing Notice 2023-03, this change was made with the understanding that the RFR would be reevaluated in year 11, and if it is underfunded at that time, either monthly deposits must increase or a one-time deposit must be made to address the property's capital needs. Next, we'll talk about the Repair-Replace decision screen. This is where you'll enter information regarding your decisions about whether to follow the CNA preparer's recommendations for each component. First, you'll determine if you agree with the preparer's recommendation between each component and its alternatives. Select a component from the component type list at the top of the screen. Several fields will appear. Under the decision in the selected alternative field, the preparer's recommendation will be shown. Select the drop-down to see both the preparer's recommendation and all of the alternatives for that component. Select either the preparer's recommendation, shown in bold print, or one of the alternatives. Next, you'll decide if you agree with the preparer's recommended action for the component, whether to add a new one, make a one-time repair, make a regular repair, or replace the item. Sometimes preparers recommend adding a new component, such as a dishwasher or air conditioning unit, to enhance the marketability of the property or to address resident comfort. A one-time repair is one that has no recurring cycle. Usually this is for something that is broken and needs to be fixed immediately. A regular repair, which CNA eTool refers to simply as a repair, applies to items where periodic, cyclical overhaul or replacement of subcomponents is customary, such as elevator repairs. A replacement is just what it sounds like, a complete replacement of the component. If you agree with the preparer's selection, select the action in bold print. If not, select another action. Then you'll decide if you agree with the preparer's recommendation about when to address the component, either now or at the end of the item's estimated useful life. Items that are necessary to address resident and staff health and safety, accessibility, and marketability generally must be repaired now, where other items are generally replaced when they wear out, such as refrigerators, doors, windows, and roofs. If you agree with the preparer's selection, select the item in bold print. If not, make a different selection. Next, you'll decide if you agree with the preparer's recommendation on duration. Sometimes it makes sense to distribute the cost of a particular action over a period of years rather than in a single year. For instance, typically an owner would replace a certain number of appliances annually rather than replacing all of them at once. In CNA eTool, this is known as duration. If there is a 0 in the duration field, this means that the action will take place in 1 year. If the field has a 1, this means that the action will be spread over 3 years. If 2, the action will be spread over 5 years, and so on. If you agree with the preparer's recommendation, don't change the number in this field. If you disagree, either enter 0 or another number. The location field shows the locations where the preparer recommended the component actions take place. If you don't agree with this information, you may change the location shown on the screen. Class of work can be categorized as a repair or level 1, 2, or 3 alteration. The repair option is for work including the reconstruction or renewal of any part of an existing building for maintenance or to correct damage. A level 1 alteration refers to work that includes the removal, replacement, and/or covering of existing materials, elements, equipment, or fixtures using similar items that serve the same purpose, such as removing and replacing existing floors or wall finishes. A level 2 alteration refers to work that includes reconfiguration of any space or system, the addition or elimination of any exterior door or window, or the installation of any additional equipment. A level 3 alteration is when the work area consists of reconfigured space that exceeds 50% of the building area. You can either leave the class of work and any detailed comments entered by the preparer as is, or you can change this information. Select Save when you're finished with the component and follow the steps we've just described for each additional component. Thank you for watching this video. For more information about how servicing lenders can complete the financial factors and repair-replace decision screens, review the CNA eTool User Guide version 3.2 located on HUD's CNA eTool homepage at the address shown on the screen.